Hey everyone, Tyson Mutrux here with Moto Lawyer, and today we're going to talk a little bit about drinking and driving while you're on the motorcycle, DWIs in general, in Missouri. So it's probably a topic that a lot of us could face. A lot of us, you know, you go out, you go a long ride, you have a beer or two, and then maybe you get pulled over. So let's talk a little bit about it. Alright, so a couple of the basics that everyone wants to know about for the most part is, should I do the field sobriety test? And that's the walk and turn, that's the one leg stand, and then the eye test, which is called the horizontal gaze and nystagmus test. Just a fancy name. We'll just call it the HGN or the eye test, just for simplification. The other part of this is just, do I have to blow, or do I have to give a blood test? And things have changed quite a bit over the last few years when it comes to, should I blow, should I give a test? And that's because just law enforcement's treating them differently. So let's tackle the first one. I'll say this: if you think if you're fearful that you're over the limit at all, don't do the field sobriety test. And again, that's the one leg stand, that's the walk and turn, and that's the eye test. That's because there's no real repercussions. I mean, could they use it against you to say, well, he won't do the test because he was drunk? Yeah, they could technically. But there's no other civil penalties. You're not going to lose your license for it just for not doing that test. So if there's any risk of it, I would say don't do it. Another thing I want to tell you about is, if for some reason if you got eye problems, or if you've got hip problems, or knee problems, or ankle problems, any physical ailments that could prevent you from doing one of the tests, even if you are sober, you need to let them know about it. Say, listen, I can't do this test because of my knee, I had a hip replacement, whatever it may be. That's a crucial factor in these two. They're not supposed to have you do these tests if you're physically impaired and not able to do them. So that's part of it. So let's skip that. So I'll tell you, don't do those tests if you feel like you are impaired. All right. So that's the first part of this. The second part. So let's move on to, should you blow? And you may not like the answer to this question, but it depends, and it depends heavily on where you are in the county, or which county you're in, which city you're in. If you're pulled over by municipal police, if you're pulled over by state police, and that's less of a factor in Missouri than it is in Illinois. But if you do blow in Missouri and you're in a county that won't confess judgment, or if you refuse to blow in the county and they refuse to confess judgment, you probably would have been better off just blowing. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, what confessing judgment means. Confessing judgment means that usually on a first DWI in a lot of counties, if you refuse to blow or give a blood sample, you can file what's called a petition for review in Missouri, and it's a civil case, and the state will confess. They'll say, you know what, you win, you get to keep your license, don't do it again, that type of thing. But in some counties they refuse to do that. For example, the city of St. Louis will not confess judgment. Some other counties will not confess judgment. And if that's the case, you're better off rolling the dice. So you need to figure out which county you're in. And I'll try and get with some of my DWI buddies and put together a list of the counties that actually confess judgment and put them in the show notes. I think that might help. But you're just better off rolling the dice, because you're not going to win anyways, because there is a statutory law. It's state law that if you refuse to blow, then you will lose your license. So the idea is that we want to avoid that, and that's one of the biggest factors. So there's the criminal side of a DWI case, and there's a civil kind of side of a DWI case. The criminal side is what everyone worries about for the most part. However, the repercussions is where they really get you on the civil side. So you're going to lose your license. You might lose your job because you can't drive. if you can avoid a lot of that, a lot of that's actually the biggest part of the headache. It's not even really the got some possible slick spots here. I want to slow down a little bit. A lot of people, what they do is they worry about the criminal repercussions, and it's really the civil ones that are going to get you. So you really do have to be careful. Like, you got to be careful going around these corners, because it looks like they can't tell if it's they put down some seed or if it's dirt or gravel. I can't really tell, but we're going to try and avoid the slick spots. So remember, when you're thinking about this, whenever you've got these cases, or if you do get pulled over, you don't just have the criminal side of it. You're not just going to go to court and they're going to charge you the DWI and you're either going to fight it or you're not. There are some civil repercussions that could be more harmful to you. So it's really personal to you. And so really, honestly, in my opinion, it comes down to whether or not you're going to blow or not. It comes down to whatever county you're in, because you need to figure out what the civil repercussions. Now, the other part of it is if it doesn't matter to you that you lose your license, it doesn't matter what you do, whether you blow or not. So it really is personal to you. A couple of things you need to know about if you do blow or if you don't blow. So if you do blow and they do find that you're driving while intoxicated, they're going to give you a piece of paper, and it's going to give you 15 days. It's a 15-day driving permit. It's going to give you 15 days to appeal that, and it's not your typical appeal, it's an administrative appeal. So keep that in mind too. You're not appealing to the circuit court, or I'm sorry, you're not appealing to the appellate court. You're actually appealing to the circuit court. And so all it is, it's filing that. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused on that corner. When you've blown and you got the 15-day permit, you're actually appealing it administratively, and it's a very informal hearing. There's one lady, Beverly LaFave, that does all of them in the St. Louis area. So St. Louis County, St. Louis City, all the out counties. But they've got different hearing officers across the state, and it's really simple. You go in and you state your case. Sometimes you'll have an officer there. A lot of times that's the best advice to do, is to have someone, a court reporter, come and record the hearing, and after you've subpoenaed the officer to come testify. So that's what the main thing I want you to take away from that is you have 15 days to appeal that. They'll give you a piece of paper. If they don't give you the 15-day driving permit, then your time will actually be extended. The other part of this, though, is if you actually do refuse to blow or give a blood sample, and that is where things get a lot more complicated, and you're going to need a lawyer. I would say for sure. I think you probably need a lawyer anyways for DWI cases. We don't do them. If you have any questions about it, we can give us a call and we can give you some advice on who to hire. We know all the good ones for the most part. If you refuse, then what happens is you have to appeal it to the circuit court. That's why I was talking about. I got it confused. I was just got sidetracked on that corner back there. But you're going to file a petition for review with the circuit court, and what's going to happen is you at some point you'll have an actual hearing, and what you're able to do is you're able to negotiate that confession of judgment, or sometimes you're able to negotiate a variety of things if it's your second or third. But the benefit of filing that petition for review is it actually stays your license suspension regardless. So even if you're going to lose that hearing, it gives you some time to get your affairs in order. So you can arrange rides and things like that. So it's a good advantage of that. But here's something you want to I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that you have the law enforcement officers and agencies, they're treating it a little differently. Is a lot of times these days, if you refuse, especially in these rural counties, what they'll do is they'll actually arrest you, go get a warrant, and take your blood from you anyways. So again, that's one of these ones where you got to know where you are. Even if you're in St. Louis County, municipalities like Maryland Heights, they might actually go and get a warrant and actually take your blood anyway. So you may have just sort of screwed yourself, because what you've done is you refused to blow, so you're going to get the license suspension unless they confess judgment, and they've got the blood to convict you. So that is it's a double whammy, and that's probably a worst case scenario, but it does happen. So just know where you are. For the most part in St. Louis County, what they're going to do is they'll actually confess judgment, which is a really nice, it is a really nice benefit of being in St. Louis County, or a county that's going to confess. Because, you know, people screw up. You know, you hop on your bike, you have a beer or two, maybe you're dehydrated from being out in the sun all day, and you may not feel intoxicated, you may not be driving intoxicated, it just sucks, you know, you get popped and you screwed up. Sometimes it happens. Another thing is, you have a beer and you're not really drunk, and someone else pulls out in front of you, and you weren't really at fault, but you got popped anyways. That sucks, because you're going to be more injured of the two. They're going to probably look at you a little bit more closely because you're on the motorcycle. So it does kind of suck, but you can get those double whammies. Again, those are rare, so I wouldn't worry too much about it, but just know where you are, know your surroundings, and hopefully you got some information about this show that helped you out. But any other questions, put them below in the comments, ask some questions. Remember to subscribe to the page. Remember, this is Moto Lawyer, so you can get us on the podcast, you can get us on the show, either one. I mean, let's be honest, I'm on the motorcycle, so the audio, the ones where I record the audio, it's not as great on the podcast. You don't get the visuals, but it's still, you can still hear it. It's not bad. It's not that bad where you can't hear it, so it's still pretty good. But I hope you enjoyed the ride. I hope you enjoyed the show. Like us on Facebook, join our closed Facebook group, and we'll be seeing you down the road. Enjoy the rest of the ride.